Welcome to Happy Hour, and we'll be discussing starting a herd of San Clemente Island goats. Just with all the babies that are going to be available this year, I think it's a good time to talk about that. And just have to get that slide. So introductions. Christy, we'll start with you. And okay. I just have on here name, location, and favorite SCI look.
All right, my name's Christy Phillips. I'm in north central Arkansas. I'm East Richwoods Farm. And my favorite SCI look is a living one, a healthy one. But I don't guess I really have a favorite. I like just the standard SCI with a nice black cape. And other than that, I like all of them.
Sounds good. We have Marguerite here, and don't think she's unmuted, but just let us know if you do want to introduce yourself. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Aaron Bai, and I live in Minnesota with my family. We show SCIs with 4-H, and we lease them to other kids as well. Our farm is Bramblewood Farm, and my favorite SCI look is the classic look. That's what I really like. The nice black cape, very pronounced. I really like the deep red as well, but I really like the pattern most of all. That's what attracted me to the breed. There's many colors, but that is my preference. So this is a picture on this page of one of my little ones. So that's Talladega, and he was born just a few weeks ago. But he just kind of embraces kind of the look that we like. We really like that taller one too. So most of our does have been right around that 75, 80 pound range. And Marguerite, I see you are unmuted if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Marguerite Strand at Poplar Woods Homestead. I've got 4 does and a buck and 3 little bucks I couldn't get rid of last year. I have 4 bucks this year, no does, and I'm wondering what to do with all my extra San Clemente Island goats. But I have mostly the darker red. I've got one lighter red, or bright red, or whatever you want to call her, and I was told by the vet that I cannot breed her again. So I've got lots of extra goats.
Okay. And if I remember right, you have a number of animals on our classifieds on our website. Is that correct?
I have the 3 from last year. I think are still on there. I haven't checked it recently.
Okay. Yeah, I know that I'd added some. I just can't remember how many were there. But yeah, that's definitely something, having a plan for the bucklings specifically, and that's not necessarily the finding the right home for them, but you know, the importance of bucks is actually part of what I wanted to talk about today. And so when we get to that, I think that'll be some good discussion too, and helping decide where to move forward like that. Thank you, Marguerite.
Mm-hmm.
So considerations. So when you're starting a herd, you really want to know what your goals or your purpose is, and that can be anywhere from just you want to have some pets, or if you want to do milking, if you want to do meat, if you want to do land clearing, if you want to work with youth. It's just really good to get that purpose there. And then from there, you can really decide how to move forward with finding the right animals, because SCIs do have a wide variety of sizes as well. And depending on your purpose, will really decide where you want to move forward and just help getting moved along. You also want to look at your capacity. How many animals is your max, and how many is your comfort level? My max level is much higher than my comfort level. We're right around 28 goats right now between our SCIs and another breed that we have that we're actually trying to phase out of. But I'm really comfortable in that 20 to 25 range. But you know, we'll always have homes for the goats that we need to. And then also the look, or the flavor is what I often call it. And so there's a wide variety. In this picture, you can see that I really like the red. because that's what you see mostly of. My wife was giving supplements to one of our does, and Sammy is on top of her. So I just love that photo, so I always have to share that when possible. But you look at the top right goat, and she's a lot lighter, but she has a gorgeous build. She's a very, she's a larger goat. When she's pregnant, she's 110 pounds. When she's not pregnant, she's right around that 95 pounds to 100 pounds when she's, real healthy. But she has gorgeous horns. She's lighter than I like, but I love her. And so we have her for breeding. This will be our second year breeding her. And then purpose or goals. So whether it's conservation, milk, land management, public education, meat production, it's just important to decide what you want to work with and what goats will work best with you. Christy and I were just talking, and her doe, you said, is right around 50 pounds. And my average doe is 75 to 80 pounds is the average doe for us. So we have larger ones, and that works good for us for the most part. So, yeah, and so just deciding what to start with. And then you also have to look at, do you want babies or do you want breeding age? Do you want to get into breeding immediately, or do you want to get into breeding, a year down the line? So sometimes, like, good example is we bought babies back in 2022, and we bred in 2023, and then we had babies in 2024 for the first time that were San Clementes. Georgia on the right, she is one that we bought as a baby. And this is her, she's 4 years old now. And the first year we tried to breed her, she didn't get pregnant. This year we were very thankful that she did get pregnant. So we're expecting her babies any day now. And the reason I bring up babies versus breeding age is because there are animals out there if you ask. Like, it sounds like Marguerite has some available. I will have some babies available. And for me, we utilize our goats to do public outreach, and so we don't have really many animals available until after the county fair, because once this time of the year hits, we know how many animals we have, and we have to stick with that until the end.
Just to add in here, so you don't have to do all the talking. There's some considerations if you're going to be hauling the goats yourself. If you're going to transport, whatever you purchase, can you transport, full-grown goats? Can you, are you going to pick up more than one? Are they going to fit in your vehicle, or are you going to have to take a trailer? Whereas babies might fit in a crate in a small car or whatever, so that's something to consider as well. And you may have this on another slide. I haven't looked. But also then, the younger you get them, the more of a chance you've got for them to imprint with you and get accustomed to you from a young age. Whereas if you're picking up an older doe or buck, depending on how they've been raised, it could be radically different, anywhere from, oh yeah, they're in your pocket, to, oh my God, you're going to kill me. I'm running as far as I can, as fast as I can. So, there's a lot to look at there. And either way, I think it's important to have some way to contain them in a really small area when you first get them, which I bet you've got a slide for that, or some topic that will fit under. But yeah, there's a lot to consider as far as what age you're bringing home.
Yeah, thank you for adding that. I was going to ask you if you had anything to add, and that's great info. I don't actually have a slide about that because I wasn't thinking about the once they get home.
Yeah, you got to think about that before you ever agree to buy one, because it's critical. And I underestimated it with my first. And my first SCI buck, I put him in a quarantine pen. That's a joke. And he just plunk right over. I had an alpine doe bred by the next morning.
I've had that problem.
Yeah.
I have two now, but because I had a buck that jumped that wasn't supposed to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I experienced similar where we had a doe that came from a very large herd, and even though she'd been away from that herd for an entire year, um, she's known to be athletic and she's calmed down a lot for us. But when we first got her, if I came near her, she could actually jump over me by parkouring
Mhm.
off the walls, and
Mhm.
all they need is a little foothold to really be able to get over that.
Mhm.
Um, and I I truly love this breed. I've been around a lot of breeds now, and I just really enjoy them, and it's fun to see other people see them in person.
Mhm.
So yeah, and we can go on to the next slide. And then I work on traits a lot too, specific traits or looks, because often I have people tell me that they like something, but when they bought their animals, they didn't even ask those questions. So I think it's important that if the specific traits or looks are important to you, ask before. Sometimes it is hard for people to give you all the details that you want, and you have to be understanding of that as well. But are you looking for a larger or smaller, tall or short? I've mentioned that I really like the tall ones. Long hair or short hair? I have both. Um, I really like the look of the short hair, but if you want to do cashmere, my long hair produce a crazy amount of cashmere or fiber versus the short-haired ones. So there's those things. The color, tan, red, cream, or black. There's all those, or there's ones that have color spots, and some people love those color spots. I'm really stuck on the traditional classic look. Um, or, and I have that on there too, or just a traditional SCI cape. So some of the traits or looks, it's important if that's important to you. And then here's where I got a little bit into the importance of a buck. Um, it's the most influential animal in your herd, because if you only have one buck, you're breeding all of your does. All of your offspring are 50% that buck. So it's really important to ask questions about that. And so that's where culling comes into effect for breeders. And culling doesn't necessarily mean meat. It means being a wether or being sold as a pet, as a wether. Um, and really just evaluating those goats and seeing what traits you want to bring on to the next year. There's a little bit of details in there too about genetic improvement, the multiplier effect. One buck can service 30 to 50 does from what I've researched. And that's a big impact on your herd. Something else that I've done over time is I've talked to a lot of longtime breeders who've been doing this their entire lifetime. And that's the one thing that they really beat into my head was concentrate on your buck, not your does. So that's something that I've told people over and over is, when I add more animals to my herd, it's going to be the buck, and it's going to be the buck that I like. And I'm going to be very, very picky about it. So, and we're always looking at wanting to make sure that we just get the healthiest animals possible. Kenny is the buck in this picture. And when Kenny came up here, he came from South Carolina, and he isn't the greatest buck for winter. So I live in a climate that is very cold. His first winter there, he actually had a little bit of struggle, and we had to work with him real hard. But you can actually see it in his horns, where he has a spot in his horns where it's a little bit weaker from that. But last winter he did really well. So it's also about adapting, and that's why it's just super important to look at your bucks and passing on the right traits. Did you have anything else?
Not related to SCIs, because I've not had SCIs long enough to speak to that or had enough of them. But in the dairy world, I've had Alpines since 2008, and I have continually, I've never, I don't want to lie here, I don't think I've bought new does in all that time, but I would buy a better buck over and over and over, trying to get, I would start out with these does that had itty bitty teats, and I'm sitting there trying to milk them, and then their orifices are teeny tiny, and it's like shooting milk out of a needle, and it's like, but I would buy a better buck. And then, one factor would improve, and then I would buy a better buck, you know. And so whatever you're trying to improve in your SCIs, which back to your, you know, what's your purpose? You know, do you want larger, sturdier? Do you want them, you know, wider, thicker? You know, whatever the trait is you're after, you know, it's important to look to your buck, and it has made a huge difference in my alpine herd. They're like night and day different than what I started with, all because of the bucks.
Yeah, and didn't you sell some that ended up like winning prizes and winning?
Yeah, I mean, it's our local fair, you know,
Right.
that I've sold my alpines to people that show in the fair, and they kind of got to where they were, you know, I don't know, every year they'd buy one of mine and go put it in, and you get, you know, grand champion or whatever. But, you know, it's a small fair, and there's not, you know, a whole lot of dairy entrants anyway. So I'm not like saying my goats are anything fabulous, but yeah, they did well.
My point of that is that somebody liked what you produced.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you had customers, and that's something that's really
Yeah.
important.
yeah,
And something that I've noticed is because of all the work that we do with the fairground showing, is we actually have a lot of people reaching out to us and asking if we have animals, because they go, hey, we know that you guys handle your animals a lot.
right.
So, and a lot is a few people, you know, but we're
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
prizes, not-
Yeah, they won at the fair, a prize, a lot. I get it.
My goats win every year at the fair. They get
There
grand
you
prize because they're the only ones in that category.
But that, I mean, that is a market, you know. I mean, if you can market to, you know, kids that can show the goats once they get heritage breeds more accepted in the fairs.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of people pushing for that, but it really takes the perfect storm. You know, we had people before us that tried to do it and they weren't able to do it, and I think we were only able to do it because other people failed before and they started greasing the wheels. It was a lot of squeaky wheel greasing though for us to do that. So, and then points to consider for the bucks specifically. You know, I want to always have 2 intact bucks on my farm. What that does is it lets me have unrelated offspring, and that way when people want to come to just me for animals, they can come to just me, get unrelated buck and doeing, so that they can start their own herd. I think it's easier and less intimidating for somebody who's never bought goats before to buy from one person versus multiple. What I'll do is, if I don't have the right animals for somebody, I'm going to find somebody within our organization that has ones for sale that might be the best fit for a buyer. I don't want to hog people, you know, just coming to me. I want to find the best animal for them for long-term success. And then also plan out for rotating bucks for genetics. Christy touched on that earlier, you know, bringing in new bucks. So I think it's good for us to move on bucks and take them out of adding offspring after a certain number. I don't know if there's a certain number that is the right number, but there are people more knowledgeable about me within our organization that can help people talk that stuff out too. And then fencing. Yep.
I just had a real question about the bucks when you're adding them and what you're looking for. So our females came from, I can't remember right now.
Fuzzy
It was
Faces.
a pain. Anyway, what's that?
Fuzzy Faces Refuge.
Yes, yes. And so they're smaller.
Yeah.
One smaller definitely than the other one. So when my husband and I have talked about, you know, he would like to be able to add size to the goats that we breed, because he would like to pursue the avenue of raising them for meat. I know not a lot of people are okay with that. But how would that affect if you're adding a bigger buck, like how would that affect the doe's ease in labor to where the babies aren't too big?
Christy, do you want to take that?
I'm going to guess, and this is just a guess, that within the SCI breed, you're probably going to be okay. My buck, which you've seen my buck, and my does are only like 50 pounds, and they've all had offspring just fine. One of them had twins, but the other two have had singles, and they've not had any problems. So, I mean, there are bigger bucks out there, but I'm thinking it's going to be okay. You're Sassy. How is she compared to your other does? Is she smaller or same size?
She's our biggest one.
Okay.
Like,
so the others are smaller.
Yeah. So, like, I would guess, I'm horrible about guessing weight, and we haven't gotten them. She's pretty small. Like, just if you look at her stature, she just seems very more delicate, fine-boned. And her daughter is the same way. So, like, and she's a year old now, just turned a year old. And, like, she's small enough that I would look at her and I'm like, I wouldn't breed her at a year old because she just looks too small to me.
Right.
Because I'm guessing she's probably maybe 30, 40 pounds, maybe.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
That is small.
Yeah, I'd wait till at least a year and a half.
The original buck that we got from Fuzzy Faces, he was quite small. And like I said, I was told all of their goats just tend to be a little bit smaller. So it's not surprising to me that she's small like that. And, you know, we lost the boy. It was kind of weird. Mom started kind of pushing him off, not letting him nurse when he started, when we were treating him for barber pole. And when we treated him for that, after that, it was just a struggle to keep him healthy. And we finally thought he was back on track. And then the first cold that we had, he didn't make it through the first night, even though there was plenty of, you know, straw and bedding for him. But he actually had at least 2 bouts with barber pole worm that it was just really hard.
Yeah.
And personality-wise, those two are a lot mellow and are a lot more accepting. Sassy lives up to her name, quite honestly. And, you know, she did really great with Christy's buck. She just was too pushy. Our one Alpine that we have, the other 3 kind of hang out together, and Sassy runs everybody off everything until sometimes we have to tie her up just so everybody can eat. And so that's initially why we tried taking her to Christy, because you know, we were told that she threw twins, but I could only find one of her daughters, maybe. There might be 2 when I looked in the registry. So I don't know how many kids she's had. So we're just waiting to see how she does. She's do any, I think April 22nd is our earliest kidding date from the calculations. So with that being said, as of right now, we only have 3 does. Space-wise, we have to keep kind of a smaller herd. But like Erin was saying, we would like to have 2 bucks just for our own breeding purposes. But if we ever do get anybody that we can get to buy our goats in this area, that they have that option too.
Yeah, I'd be really happy for you to get an unrelated to my animals goat, because I'm close to you.
Yeah. I'm trying to. I'm really waiting to see. I mean, it looks like she's got 2 in there because she's kind of so wide right now. But I think what our plans are going forward are just going to depend on if she has a buckling, 2 bucklings, one of each. Because if we end up with all females, we are getting, well, we're on the list to get a buckling from Debbie, but if she doesn't have a buckling, then we're still looking for a second, and that's where I would prefer to try to find a mature buck.
I'm going to guess, based on how easy I've seen these does deliver, I mean, compared to my alpines, I'll be like watching an SCI and I'm like, okay, yeah, it looks like she's, fixing to start, going to the labor, ligaments are gone, whatever, mucus plug. Yeah, I've got, a good hour or 2 at least, and I'll turn around and I've got babies dropped on the ground, and if they were going to have problems or have to push them out like it was a strain, I just feel like you could go with a larger buck and be okay.
Okay. Yeah. Because, the first alpine we had, like, she had twins, and it was our first kidding, and she had one. The second one was stuck, like its leg didn't present like it should have.
Yeah.
So she had to have an assist.
Yeah.
And I was leaving town. My husband was here. I checked Lucy before I left, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't get 45 minutes down the road, and he's calling me and sending me pictures that, hey, Lucy just had twins.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah.
And did great on her own.
Yeah. So from what I've seen, and again, I have little, experience, but I'm going to guess you're going to be fine.
Okay.
And I agree with the meat. And since I know Jenny has alpines as well, just for your own information, we bred our buck. Of course, we only have the SCI buck, and we bred him with all of our alpine does. And I've got a year-old alpine weather here now. Alpine SCI cross weather that we're going to sell at the sale barn this fall, and he's as big as my alpine does. So for size-wise, they at least this one grew out really large.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of in the camp of the, I don't know what, I know there's a catchy saying that pretty much for us, like, we want to make sure any of the animals that we're selling for breeding animals are animals that we would keep ourselves for breeding animals.
Absolutely.
And either, whether any males that don't meet those standards and send them as a buddy companion somewhere, or use them for meat.
Right. That's something else that I've thought about, you put these goats on a transport and you haul them across the country, and if there's only one goat, or even if it's on a trailer with goats it doesn't know being picked up along the way, or whatever, I always think it would be nice to have a weather, to send with it, even if you just like say, hey, I'm going to throw this weather in the trailer free with your paid for San Clemente Island buck or doe or whatever, as a companion to make the transport easier. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So, if a person had the availability, of extra bucks, that you could weather, which I weathered the buckling we had this spring, because there's plenty of bucks out there, and I don't need the money. Somebody else can sell a buck to somebody. I weathered him, and if we don't need him to transport with, a doe that I sell or whatever, then we may process him for meat. But anyway, that's just another way to go about it.
Jenny,
I agree.
If it helps you at all, I bred a 150-pound buck to a 75-pound doe, and it went perfectly well.
Okay.
So, and I mean, that's a big buck.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't have that, and it looked funny when they were breeding, I'll tell you that much, because he's standing next to her, and he's very furry too, and so he just looked bigger than he actually was, and she looked like a third of him.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't think there's something to worry about with that. I haven't heard of anyone having problems, but I do know that, when people have done different breeds way outsized the size, it is quite different. And the bucklings, or the two bucklings from the doe, I believe were just over 5 pounds, so they still weren't very big. But my average size is about 4 pounds at birth for all of my births.
I tell you what, you go buy a giant buck and I'll breed it to all my does and test the theory for you.
Yeah. Hey, I'm all about like collaborating and helping out when we can, because it's hard enough. And I've talked to a few people that they're interested and they want to get them, but they're just not. Usually the response I get is, "Oh, I'd love to have them. We're just not quite there yet. We're just not quite ready yet."
Right.
So that's also kind of a reason why we didn't rebreed Lucy this year, because we can only support and sustain so many, and it would be nice if there were more people interested.
Yeah.
We don't have. We're a really, really small county, so we don't have the luxury right now. I talked to our 4-H extension agent, and they pretty much have said our local show is going to continue to be a market show, and they don't have any room right now to even add like a exhibition class, I guess, just for people to come and show their goats. We have some friends that have the myotonics that I know they were just to try to get information out there on them. I think at one point in time I was told like if we wanted to bring one of our goats to like Ag Experience Day, we could bring them to Ag Experience Day, but not the show.
Yeah.
It's a tough shell to crack.
Yeah.
It really is. And so, you know, it's about being the squeaky wheel, you know, as much as you can. And, you know, it's not all about show, but for us, the show is actually about getting kids involved, and we get to see the growth in the kids. And maybe there's a way of having you enter in animals into that market class. You know you wouldn't win, but it would be the experience. You know, at least not win of, you know, the size in that. But you just never know. I mean, judges are judges, and there's not a solid knowing of who's going to win things.
Yeah,
we're kind of getting.
We were told.
Go ahead.
We were told, like, for here, if you're not showing a boar goat, you can forget placing well. But no, so I guess going back to the bucks, it was, I mean, we've considered size, but there are some other things I hadn't really thought about that are now on my radar. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, that sounds good. And one other thing that I had on here to consider for the bucks is I have an aisle down the middle of my property, and on one side the bucks get, on the other side the does get, and the doe side is much bigger. But then in that aisle I actually have two fences that are about 4 feet from each other, and that stops any goats from getting over one and then to the next, because they can't see the depth perception as much. So that's really helped. So if you can't do a 6-foot fence or a 5-foot fence, you know, 2 4-foot fences can really work pretty well. I'm not saying that they can't get through. I'm just saying it deters them. But we haven't had any problems with that. Then we'll hit our last slide, which is discussion, which is what we've been having. So.
So with having 2 bucks or multiple bucks on a property, do you put them in their own pens? Can they be housed together? What has been people's experience with that?
So for me, I have 4 males. One of them is a wether, and I had a mature buck and a mature wether living together, and the wether was very unhappy, and he can really jump good. And so when he was sick of the buck, he ran away from the buck, but he stayed in the house or in the area. We now have 4, so we have 3 bucks and that 1 wether together. And I almost think that for us, 3 or 4 goats together made it very peaceful for all of them, more than 2. So for me, I actually always want to have 3, because I've seen how much easier it is. When it's 2, I think they get sick of each other, and they you know, compete a little bit, but you know, but it's a lot to keep 4 bucks. You know, that's 4 mouths to feed every year. But we keep them all together. For most of the year, they have about a ½ an acre of pasture. And then they actually have 3 different shelters that they can go in. I have a barn that I keep hay in, and I made an 8x8 area in there that they can come inside. Plus there's a lean-to, plus there's what I call the love shack, which was my first buck pen shelter. And that's just a very warm shelter that all 4 of them can actually fit in there. But by giving them 3 different options with the 4 animals, it's been very peaceful.
Okay.
I kept alpine bucks. I only had 2 at a time, a couple of times, but they were okay. I usually had a wether with my buck, and then for a short time I'd have a second buck. So there was 3 goats in there. They did fine. Lisa Leonard had some SCI bucks. Tell me if I'm telling this right, Erin, that they got in a fight and one of them broke one of them's horn plumb off, and it was like awful. So I'm kind of nervous now since seeing her pictures of the buck with that big giant horn, bless his heart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I remember seeing that picture.
Yeah, so it kind of makes me a little nervous because these goats are, like, when I put does in with this SCI buck, I mean, he guards them, and he runs them away from us and away from anything he doesn't want them to have, whereas my alpine bucks are just like, oh, hey, what are you doing? You know, here's me, and here's some does, you know, and we're all, like, happy, and we don't care. They were just totally different in the way that they engage. Which, you know, I don't stall breed mine. I usually put my does, or my SCI does, I just put them in there and leave them for a while. So it's a different ball game, though, to me.
Go ahead. Our Alpine was a bottle baby, so he was kind of obnoxious. But the SCI males that we have, you know, we've had kind of across the board where they've been very, very friendly and like for you to scratch on them. And then we've had other ones that, you know, they'll come up and take a treat. But other than that, if you don't have food, they really don't want to have anything to do with you. So
yeah, that's kind of where mine's at. It'll take an animal cracker, and if you're quick, you can get a hold of its collar, and then otherwise, nope.
Mine are snuggle bugs. Not our weather, but our 3 bucks are actually, I just sit down in the pen with them and they come up to me. But the mature buck is the one that came to us. He wasn't mature, but he was getting there when we got him. But I noticed a definite difference between animals that were born with us and the animals that came later. So they just, like Christy said, you know, earlier on the deciding what to get, the ones that you raise more are going to probably be more friendly with you.
As a totally maybe unrelated tip, I read on the internet, which we all know is 100% true, that when you have a new goat kid, you know, and you're right there when it's like a day or 2 old or whatever, if you pick it up and you talk to it or breathe basically in its face and let it smell you a lot, you know, as often as you can, that they will bond with you a lot quicker. And I have tested that, and that does seem to actually be a thing. So, you know, if you're willing to breathe goats.
Yeah. Well, most of our animals here don't have a choice because we have kids that don't give them the option of not being handled.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes I have to draw a line and be like, you can't go outside right now.
Right, put it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you think about it, and some people, you know, I mean, you're there, you're with the goats, you're petting it, you know, but a lot of people don't necessarily, and possibly wisely, stick a goat in their face, you know, and like, ooh, and all over it and everything, you know. I mean, you know, there's germs and parasites and whatever, but all that aside, it really does seem to make a difference. And I've watched them, they'll turn around and they'll purposely sniff, you know, and it's like they're purposely trying to get a bead on who and what you are, and it does seem to make them friendlier.
I'll have to
That must be why ours are so friendly, because we just get in their face and talk to them.
Yeah.
So.
And the SCIs are not food motivated like goats I've had in the past. And so when you're thinking about getting, you know, a new herd, this kind of pertains to the topic. What do you know? you can't count on like, oh, well, I'm just going to give them the favorite treat, that my other goats had, or I read on the internet if you just have animal crackers or whatever. Well, that doesn't always work with these, especially the kids that, I've had kids, let's see, who was it? Nutmeg and Macy, I believe both. They didn't care for goat feed. All they wanted was mom's milk, or they'll just go browse, or they'll eat hay. And I'm talking up to like, months, 6 months, 8 months, a year old. Nutmeg didn't start eating goat feed until she was almost due to deliver kids. So,
Oh, wow.
it's a whole different ballgame trying to win them over.
We have gotten
Yeah, I know ours. Go ahead.
So, nope, you're good to go.
Well, I know ours would much rather forage than eat hay, but they do like the pellets. It's to the point where I don't like to feed my goats if they're yelling at me. So sometimes I wait a little bit till they calm down, then I'll take their pellets out to them.
Yeah.
And we've had, I put this out there on our group. The coastal grass hay that we've been getting is they probably waste more of it than they eat. And Sassy seems to do well with it, but our Alpine and the other SCIs are just not where we would like them to be, ideally. So we've actually switched over to, we found somebody that we could get like an orchard grass Timothy mix and like a 750-pound 3-string square bale that we might try, but we've had more success with them eating the Timothy grass and, of course, alfalfa than we have the coastal grass. And when they can be out and they can forage, it seems like they have a better, ours particularly, I don't know about everybody else's, seem to have a better body condition when they're doing that.
I mean, it makes sense. That's what they're made to do.
Yeah, and we've had people approach us to ask us if we would loan them out for brush clearing, and we don't have any type of livestock guardian dog. So we have said no to that because we haven't found a way where we could safely fence them in an area or keep predators away from them.
Yeah, and I'd be worried about them jumping out in a strange place.
Yeah.
I also be concerned about what plants are they clearing. Because my woods are partially wetland, and I've identified 15 poisonous plants.
Marguerite, could you repeat that? We have a hard time hearing you.
Well, if I could find the thing.
So with the goats being so picky, sometimes with what they eat, will they, if there are other things to eat, will they stay away from the poisonous plants, or do they just not really care?
That's been nice.
I haven't had my San Clementes out there because I'm afraid of a poisoning. Being San Clementes, they might be a little wiser as to what to stay away from. But I know my Kikos, I had 4 poisonings, and once was 7 at a time.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I understand why you're shy on that.
Yeah. For us, we've got Perilla mint, depending on how you say it. Very toxic, and it grows all through our pastures, but they don't bother it unless everything else is dead in a drought, or whatever, and that's what's there, and then they will eat it. So we just watch, and the first sign that they're nipping it, they can take a little bit of it, but the first sign that they take a bite of it, we just lock them up where they can't get out of basically their dry lot, and we try to weed eat it or whatever. But other than that one, if there's poisonous things, we don't have enough of it to matter. But they do seem to skip right over it. They'll just, it's like an ocean out behind our house here, just south of the house. It's just a ton of it, and they'll just walk right through it and pick everything but that, until it gets really dry.
Have any of y'all had your? I think Christy, you have pigs in with your goats, correct?
In some pastures, yes.
In some pastures.
Mm-hmm.
We have meat pigs, but there's a whole. We haven't put the goats out up there for them to graze up there because I'm not sure how. I don't think the goats would care. I'm just not sure how the pigs would react. And they're almost 260-pound full Berkshire pigs. So,
do they have tusks?
No.
Okay, I don't think it would be a problem. The only problem we've had with the pigs is if the goats and pigs are trying to eat at the same spot. And that's one of those things where we've just had to okay, we kind of train the pigs, this is where you eat, and we kind of train the goats, this is where you eat, and you just kind of put feed down and then run over to the other place and hope you get over there and distract the goats, whatever. But the only problem we've had is with our boar, and he just gets to shoving sideways to shove everybody out of his spot, and his tusks have they actually poked our livestock guard dog in the chest. It didn't kill her, but she was highly uncomfortable for a long time. And then, I don't think he's ever hurt one of the goats. I don't remember a wound, but, those tusks are sharp. But otherwise, they just kind of shove them, and the goats go away.
We might have to try it. The only thing I could see where feeding would be an issue because our pigs have the feeders that they just lift up, and we actually had to put rocks on top of them because one of our alpines was reaching over and flipping up the top and getting into it from the top instead of the bottom over the fence. I just don't know how well the pig feed would do for them.
Yeah. In fact, I had pigs in with Sassy and our buck when Sassy was here. And the pigs kind of caught on to feeding time for the goats in the evening because I was feeding twice a day on the goats, and we only feed the pigs in the morning. And they would run over there when I would go down to feed Sassy and the buck, and they got to where they could raise up on the fence and eat out of the goat feeders. So I had to get creative with not letting them know I was coming up there.
Gotcha. Sorry. I'm sorry if you can hear our dogs barking. We have our young one out there, and she's getting everybody riled up.
We know how that goes. So,
yeah.
Marguerite,
so I know I was a little bit late.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Since I wasn't able to get on time, what was there anything of high importance from the first part that I missed or need to be aware of?
I think you got on pretty quickly. I can go back through the slides and you can let me know. It was very simple. We started off with introductions. I don't know if you saw this, but the considerations, so it's just an overview of what to look for.
Okay.
And then we just jumped right into purpose or goals.
Okay.
I think you missed the introductions. You mentioned looking for a buck with Debbie. I'm about 2 hours from her, and if she doesn't have one, I mentioned I've got lots of bucks right now.
Okay. Like mature bucks or varying ages?
I have 3 yearlings, and I have 4 that were just born a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, Jenny,
Yeah.
Marguerite is Poplar Woods in the herd book. You can look at her list.
She does have
Okay.
some on the classifieds as well.
Yeah, the yearlings, I think I put a picture in, didn't I, Ariel?
Yep, I'll actually pull that up here real quick. I'm just trying to find the correct page here.
Find the right tab.
I'm not sure where I am membership wise. I sent an email to the membership one because I sent my membership dues back in January, but the check hasn't cleared yet, so I don't know where my membership
Really?
is at the moment.
Well, your membership shows that it's paid through the end of this year, so I don't know why your check hasn't cleared.
Oh, mentioning that, I've
maybe.
had 2 checks not clear, and I know that you've gotten them because you responded to me.
That's interesting. I'll send a message to Associated Registry and see what happens with a paper check in our registry. You mail it to Associated Registry and they process it all, and then they put the paper checks in an envelope and mail them to our treasurer who's in California. And so there's a big delay there, and then the treasurer in California has to actually deposit them. But it shouldn't be that long of a delay.
Okay, yeah. And I was gonna, I saw the reminder, so I was gonna go back through my checkbook and look to make sure it was the right check, but it's the only check number missing from that time period. So
yeah, I'll message Greg, the treasurer, and see what the status is on checks. What he's got pending. But you can always check your member page in the herd book. It shows your expiration date.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So here's the classified. And these are Marguerite's Poplar Woods.
Ooh, I like a Kia.
Yeah, he's a little darker. He's also a little less friendly, but they're yearlings now, so.
Yeah. Where'd you get that name?
All my names last year were New Testament biblical.
Oh, cool. I had our first alpine doe. I named her Montekia and called her Kia, and it was Spanish for butter, I think, or something. I've forgotten now, but I called her Kia.
Yep, Marguerite,
so
if you want an update, I can if you send me new photos and just label the photos with the current name or the names in the photos, I can update your listing too, so that I'll bump it up and that as well.
Yeah, I'll be sending you this year's pretty soon.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about breeding and choosing a buck, how many people are still, or do you have any idea, are still submitting DNA to verify that the kids are actually sired by the right buck?
That's only going to happen if you request it to happen, unless, you got a breeder that says, hey, my buck, got in with my does and I didn't, didn't catch it, so I've got to test which buck is whatever. you're just going to have to ask case by case because not required.
I started doing it with my first SCIs because in the past, before SCI GBA started, there was an issue with
I may have lost you, Marguerite.
And on Marguerite's listing, she actually has on here DNA verified.
Yeah. It's an excellent practice. It's a good plan.
Yeah.
But it's just not, I don't think it's commonly done.
I mean, I can only speak for me personally going forward. If we only have one buck on the property, that's very easy to keep track of.
Right.
But if we would ever have 2 bucks on the property intact, it's something I would do whether it's required or not.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
for me personally, if I'm thinking from a buyer standpoint, like I feel like that gives a little bit more assurance, because when we were just trying to stay within the Plymouth line, there was some mix-ups that it's neither here nor there and really doesn't matter anymore. But it was kind of like I learned a lesson from that, and because I didn't request that verification up front, it came after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I would have known before, I would have made a different decision, but
right.
It was a good learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, and generally it's not a big deal, of course, to do DNA and to send it in. It's just kind of scary the first time. So, but you know, even if you're working with a breeder that's not done it, it's easy to walk them through. You know, it's not that expensive. The only problem comes is if, you know, the sire you're needing to test has died. You know, that gets to be a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marguerite, there, she's coming back. Maybe she's get connected.
And Jenny, I pulled up. This is actually how I take care of all my records. Is I put it on Google spreadsheet, and so this is actually all my baby weights since I started having SCIs. And you can see some of them don't have all the information, but that's also how I do my breeding. Is we put them in day by day, so we're able to make sure. And that's one of the things that we do. Even though we have, you know, 3 bucks, and actually we had 4 bucks on site last fall. But this is how we decided to maintain records.
And that works, though, because you've got that aisle and the 2 4-foot fences, you know, and all that to make sure your buck can't breed through the fence. So,
yeah.
Marguerite, I was going to see if Marguerite wanted to finish what she was saying.
Yeah. Well, I was saying that when I first got started with San Clemente's, there was another registry that was not releasing registration or DNA number. So I got my does with no way of verifying. I had to start from scratch. So I started testing all mine so I can give that number away and still protect my does numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's critical. Yeah, and even if people test and choose SCI GBA as your affiliate and get the discount, you know, and share your information with us, it's always your DNA, your number, it's all yours. So, yeah, you're safe there.
Yeah. Well, it sounds good. I appreciate the discussion. It was nice to have, you know, a good discussion tonight. And so I think we're ready to close that off. And for anyone watching, you know, afterwards, you know, we have our classifieds, and it's scigba.org classifieds. And that's a good way of finding animals. Reach out. We have contacts for everyone right on there, and talk with us
And
if you have questions.
And if you're a scammer, don't call me.
Yeah.
You have those
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
I have at least one a year, and I've already had one in January, so hopefully
Yeah.
I'm this year.
Hopefully you're done
Yeah.
for the year.
And he's one that I had last fall. Apparently he went through the website to get me the first time, and the
Yeah.
second time he did it through my phone number and didn't realize he had already dealt with me. Now, one problem I've heard with another breeder was that it's not scammers so much, but people wanting meat. He was having problems with them wanting to do the slaughter on his property.
Oh, interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, up in our area, it's very common for people to want to slaughter on site.
Mm-hmm.
And it's religious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Times, and everyone has to make their own choices on that.
Yeah.
So sounds good. Well, thank you everybody for attending tonight. It was a good discussion, and we'll have another happy hour next month. And we're hoping to have one actually on the meat topic of recipes. I know Lisa was going to try and do that, so it'll either be the next one or the one after that, I think.
Okay.
Well, okay, I've got some goat meat in the freezer. Maybe I'll just wait to cook it till after we get the recipes.
I was just going to say there better be a way I can save those recipes.
Right, yeah.
I'll talk to Lisa about setting something up so that we can have a spot for recipes then.
Yeah,
So,
we can put it in the Google Drive.
yeah.
Cool.
So thank you all. Have a great night.
All right, bye everybody.
Thank you. You too. Bye.